Welcome to Winder Works, the official podcast of the City of Winder. Join us today as we go behind the scenes to learn from the people, projects, and progress shaping our community. Now, let's get ready to dive into the initiatives that make Winder a great place to live, work, and visit. All right, well, welcome everyone to this month's edition of the Winder Works podcast. Very, very happy to have a special guest with us today. We have our Police Chief, Mr. Jim Fullington, with us. Chief, how are you doing today?
Doing good. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, we'll jump right in. I'll go ahead and apologize to anyone that has the pleasure of listening that it is allergy season. So if they hear me sniff during the podcast, it's not that your stories are making me cry. It's that, it's that time of year in Georgia. No matter how long you lived here, you're not immune to that yellow stuff that falls out of the sky.
Amen.
Well, Chief, these are pretty good podcasts. We like to kind of tell everybody what your department does and some of the good things that you want people to know. But first, let everybody know a little bit about who you are. Who is Jim Fullington?
Just a quick overview. I grew up in Macon, Georgia. Went to Southwest High School, home of the Patriots, and graduated from high school. Went to University of Georgia. Right. Got my criminal justice degree and. My last part of my criminal justice program was to do an internship. I did my internship with the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and just fell in love with the agency at that time. And they were hiring that summer, so I graduated in 1985, applied with GBI, and got hired that end of that summer. Okay. So did the first 27 and a half years of my career with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Worked in different areas of the state and different areas of the GBI. Did drug enforcement, did crime scene investigation, was a supervisor my last 10 years. So.
Okay. And so, sorry, I know everybody heard me laugh when you said Southwest Patriots. If people don't know, I'm from Macon, Georgia as well, and I went to Central High School. So go Chargers, the Sugar Bear Band, right?
That's right.
So I don't think I've ever asked, did you go to elementary school in Macon?
I did. I grew up on the south part of Macon, south part of Bibb County. Yeah. I went to James H. Porter.
You went to Porter Elementary. I went to Minnie Burgard Elementary, right down the street from. I know exactly where Porter Elementary is. You know why? My mom lives in the neighborhood right behind Porter Elementary,
right in the middle of the pecan orchard.
It was. It's not anymore.
Okay.
She still lives there, so it's just definitely a small world. And maybe we'll share this with the Bibb County Board of Education and let them see two of their products, whether good or bad. Right.
That's right.
Well, Chief, everybody sees police officers. Everybody knows that, they always in their mind say, hey, man, we only see them when something's wrong. We only see them if they're going to get somebody doing something bad. But what does a typical day actually look like for an officer in the Winder Police Department?
It is no 2 days are ever the same. Every day is different. Coming from GBI, we worked a certain type of cases with GBI over the first part of my career. So coming here, I got introduced to a little more what I call localized policing. And our officers work 12-hour shifts. They come on board and they start answering calls periodically throughout the day. And it's everything from, hey, my kid won't get up and go to school. Can you send the officer over here? We've had the cat stuck in the drain. Come get the cat out, to anything, to domestic violence, to we've had murders, traffic accidents. No 2 days are the same. Every day is different, and they are constantly just available, patrolling, and responding to people's needs.
Yeah, and I think that's something that people probably don't really and truly understand is just the variety of what an officer's day can look like from the time they get to work till the time that they're able to go home. Where, my day may be a little more structured. They don't have a calendar. No. They go where they're needed and they go as they're needed. And some things are more priority than others. Yep. So that being said, what would be the most common kind of call you guys get? I know that I'm not talking about traffic stops, but calls for service. What would be the most common that you all get?
In Winder, we're blessed. We do at this time. We don't have a lot of violent crime on a daily basis. The downside is our top two crime types for the past 10 years of calls for service that turn into cases are domestic violence and thefts. We work thefts from shoplifting to burglary to car thefts. We have a large number of theft calls in the city throughout, and then domestic violence.
Okay. I've kind of just obvious reasons, I won't touch on domestic violence. But what are some tips if somebody's listening? You know, when you're talking about thefts, how can I prevent theft? I know I'm not a department store, I'm not Walmart, I'm not Publix or a big store like that. But how can Jonathan, regular citizen, prevent that?
Yeah, in today's environment, in today's society, it's not like it was when you and I grew up, especially growing up in more of a little more rural area. People left their houses unlocked, left their cars unlocked, left keys in the car.
Right.
And in today's environment, in today's society, we just strongly recommend people, initially make sure you secure your house, lock your house, lock your cars. Even when they're in the driveway, it's just an environment today where there are people wandering, looking for opportunities of stuff to take. Don't leave your valuables in your car, especially if leave them visible in the car. We still have people on a regular basis that leave weapons in cars, and the cars are unlocked. And we've just this last year we worked several gun thefts where some juveniles were wandering the streets at night and pulling on car doors, and were able to obtain firearms by taking them out of vehicles.
So are you telling me and telling everyone listening that criminals are lazy? That they would much rather just open a door than break a window? Much
more so, yes. As long as there's opportunities for them to open unlocked doors, they're going to do that. And so we have people that come in from outside areas that will go to a subdivision and at night, and then get out and just put people out, and they will walk pulling door handles on vehicles. And then we have people that in the local people that get out, wander the streets, especially some teenagers at times, and they'll just check door handles, park in driveways to see what they can get. And so in today's society, I tell people, please make sure you lock your car doors.
And I mean, I think that's not, I mean, you always hear that around the holidays, but that doesn't, crime is not
it isn't all the
just
time
specific to December. Yeah.
Yes.
So that being said, that perfectly kind of transitions into the next question. I know one of your big philosophies, and people probably don't really understand what it means. Can you tell us a little bit about how you all like to do community policing, and how that helps the community and supports our public safety?
Yeah, community policing is, and some people call it a buzzword in policing over the past 5 or 6 years, and it means a lot of different things to different people. Our philosophy in Winder, and since I've been there, from day one, when we hire somebody, we sit down and talk about the 3 things that are important to our department. One of the key things is community policing. I go through an explanation to let them know that it's not a us against them. It's not police against the society and police against the community. We're part of the community, and we have to work together with the community and pair up together, team together, to prevent and deter crime and to make it a safer and better place to live. Especially young officers getting out that hadn't been in policing before, they don't necessarily think about it or realize it, but I tell them, we need the community. We need the community support. We're only, at full staff, we're only 44 officers, total in number, and we have a citizenship of almost 20,000 in the city of Winder. We need to build relationships with our citizens and with our community to do our job and to help prevent and deter crime and make it safer. We rely on our community to be witnesses. We rely on our community to call us when there's a need. We rely on our community to serve as our jurors in cases and criminal cases and on grand juries. We need our community to support us. And I will say we're very blessed in the city of Winder. We have a community that is very supportive of public safety, very supportive of the police department. We don't have a community or a neighborhood that is us against them, so to speak, as there are in some areas that are around us. We have good community support. It was here when I got here. We've tried to continue that on, and we strive to teach and coach our officers to be a part of that. The second part of that is I tell them, we're not here just to enforce laws. We're here to serve the public. We're here to build relationships and serve the public. So I tell them, every contact you have with a citizen, you're either making a positive impact with the police department or a negative impact for the police department. I tell them, have connection and have communication with the public other than writing them a ticket or taking somebody to jail. And that sounds simple, but they have to be intentional to do that. And it's a big part of being part of the community.
And that's perfect. And it just made me think about something. As we're recording this podcast, we had our retreat with
Yes.
mayor and city council over the weekend, and you shared a really eye-opening stat that I always love to see. That I know some of our new elected officials were probably shocked to see. Can you tell the public how, essentially roughly how many traffic stops you all had last year versus how many citations were actually written?
Yeah, last year we had right at 9,600 traffic stops for the year, approximately 800 a month. Of those 9,600 traffic stops, we had just under 3,000 citations that were written, and then we had 5,800 warnings. We are just about 2/3 warnings to 1/3 citations over the course of our traffic stops. And that stat to me is at no time do I tell our officers when to write a ticket and when not to write a ticket. I tell them we patrol the streets to try to correct bad driving behaviors or bad driving mistakes so that we can make the roads safer. And they have the discretion of when to write citations and when not to, for the most part. And but it is a little bit, that statistic to me helps show that we're not here just writing tickets to make money. We're not here just being the Gestapo trying to stop people to give them tickets to flex our position. At times there's people on social media or in the general media that may suggest that, but that's not the course. It's not why we do traffic stops. It's not why we enforce the traffic laws.
Right. And I think that's something that is part of the next question. I think with the advent of social media and people being able to share something so quickly, and it's just how, based on whatever algorithm it is, it's how much people interact with a certain post.
Oh yeah.
If I see an officer playing basketball on a video, I mean, man, that's really nice. But if you see something where there's a mass crowd of people protesting police involvement in something, you're going to watch that. You're going to click that. But there may be 30 examples of an officer playing basketball or taking kids shopping, and only one example of the other. So it really doesn't reflect what accurately happens.
No,
does it?
It doesn't. Social media, the internet, social media is a blessing and a curse.
Mm-hmm.
It is a great tool in a lot of ways. But it's also an avenue for people just to post their personal thoughts or feelings, to post stuff that's not true, to try to paint perspectives that are not reality. And there are people out there that buy into it and listen to it. So it is something that's it's just part of the life we deal with, and that we have to look at.
So I would always encourage people, and I assume you would too. If you want to know an answer, just reach out and ask. I've noticed that your officers, command staff, everyone in the police department are always willing to have a conversation with anyone at any point. Just walk in the building, and it's very refreshing to see.
No, I appreciate that. That's something that's been a part of my position since I've been chief. I tell people they don't have to walk in the building. If you'll call me, I'll meet you where you are. I'll come to your house. I'll meet you in a restaurant. I will talk with anybody at any time about anything, as long as we can talk civilly and professionally. And at times, sometimes we agree to disagree, but there's nothing that we can't sit down and talk about.
Correct. So with all that said, what do you see throughout your career, and especially now, have been the biggest challenges going forward to how you all operate as a modern police department, with technology, with social media, with kind of a different community now, with everyone growing up in the digital age?
A couple of things. I guess the first thing with the generation that we're now hiring to be police officers, and some of the younger individuals coming on to be police officers, people that have grown up with a lot of technology, with a lot of texting, with a lot of social media, don't always have the best people skills, so to speak. Sometimes we have to work hard and intentional to get them to learn how to talk to people and address people, and sometimes it's to be able to talk through a conflict, which is they'll do a lot when they become an officer. And some people have not had a lot of experience with that, and this generation. That especially with the as much texting and emails and social media that goes on, it kind of keeps them from having to do that. So that's kind of first and foremost is what we see. The second part of it is, and you mentioned it earlier, is we can respond now to a scene, and it can be somebody, a citizen was seriously injured, and that stuff may be going out on social media with pictures and videos before we ever have a chance to even talk to the first witness or to let the family members know what happened. And so it becomes a tough thing when we have family members calling us or showing up, and we haven't even have a chance to reach out to them to let them know that they had somebody that was involved in a serious accident or a serious crime. And so it is somewhat of a double-edged sword that we have to try to work with and deal with.
Oh, and I think that's accurate, and I hope I'm speaking from what I remember. It can really hurt a person's reputation. There was I believe it was a baseball player in Atlanta who cops got called to the house, but they only saw the scene when they got there, and he let the process play out, which he absolutely should have, and it turns out that he was the victim, as opposed to the other person being the victim, because that's how it's like, also the football thing. The person that reacts is going to be what you see on video. Right. You don't see what starts something. How do you train your officers? Because there's a point to what I said. I love sports, but there's a point. How do you teach your officers to make sure they're remaining calm? Because everything can be video. They have body cameras, just to make sure they treat everyone with respect and as much restraint as possible, regardless of the situation.
A lot of it does go into training, and then it's philosophy that we try to preach, that we try to coach, that we try to lead by example when we're showing and training new officers. I jokingly and truthfully say that sometimes having a group of 44 officers that ranges the gamut of officers with 27 years of experience at 50 years old down to officers that are 22 and 23 years old with less than a year of law enforcement experience. It's almost like raising teenagers. You can have good intentions and tell them what you want, and when you put them all out there in the street, it's some of them are going to go by emotions. They're going to go with and make choices. Sometimes it's not the best choices. So we try to do a good job of supervising, but coaching, mentoring, preaching our word. One thing we preach is do not police on emotion. Emotion is such a detriment to decision making and to trying to de-escalate situations, which we want to try to do. I tell them from the start, from day one, when I'm interviewing them before we hire them and after we hire them, we're at no time are we ever going to win a shouting match or a cussing match with somebody. We're not going to come out ahead. Whether they started it or whether we think we're right, we're still going to lose. So we tell them, we try to tell them and teach them to separate yourself from the emotion and focus on staying calm, helping to bring the situation down. I tell people sometimes it's just as important to listen as it is to talk when you go to a heated situation. And so we try to teach them to do that, and let them know that it's that emotions can get you in trouble if you follow them or react in them.
Oh, I agree with that. As my dad used to tell me, son, don't argue with an idiot. They'll bring you down to their level and beat you every time. So just if somebody says 2 + 2 is 6, you say, man, that's great. Let's talk about this. You can't argue with somebody. And I think you all, from what I've noticed, your officers, remain calm. I know they're heightened situations. They're different for my position, public works director, planning director versus the stress that those officers are under. And that does affect mental health of officers. And I know from working with you that you are big into supporting your employees, their mental health. Can you kind of let everyone know what you all do and how you support that? Because you guys have a different mindset to go home with every day.
Right. We want them to be mentally healthy. We want them to be in a good place mentally when they come to work, for their safety and for the safety of the public. They are exposed, and it's not just young officers. Officers in general are exposed to very chaotic situations, very high emotional and sensitive situations, dealing with it can be car wrecks with people that are severely injured or killed. It can be children being injured or killed. We offer EAP through our city. That's free mental health counseling that they can go to. They do not have to go through us. They do not have to notify us. If they just need somebody to talk to professionally, I believe, and I teach and tell them that you need to have You need to have a good, healthy mindset outside of just policing and work. That I recommend that they talk to somebody, whether it be a professional or to a pastor, that they can to seek out just to get a better handle and try to get better grounded in the situation. We also, within law enforcement, we have what we call peer-to-peer counseling that's available. And that's basically officers, not necessarily in our department, but in our general area, that are trained a lot of them have been through some crisis and had some professional counseling, but they are trained to come alongside of an officer that's struggling with a situation or struggling just processing things. And they're like somebody in their own field that's talking to them that's been through it before.
Well, that's really good. And I'm kind of upset you didn't touch on it. You want to tell everybody who River is?
River.
I love River.
River is our emotional support dog, as we call her. She is a brown lab that belongs to Captain Ricky Banks. We've had her 3 years now. About 3 years ago, we saw some other departments that had brought in some what we call emotional support dogs. And she's not an attack dog. She's not a drug dog. She is just a big, soft, friendly, lovable dog that just makes everybody feel better. We brought her on, but to have her available, we expose her to children sometimes, so that sometimes if a child's a witness or a victim in something, having a dog around it kind of helps them to relax and feel more comfortable. We've had adults that are the same way, that come in and they may be tense or tight especially in an investigation, and just to have River there just to kind of be present and calm them down. Mm-hmm. And then last and probably most important, it was by accident or not my intentions, but she brings everybody down that comes to work. And if they're tense and having a bad day, just to give her a treat or let her come up and wag her tail and pet her, it just makes your day better.
It does, and the only time River will ever hurt you is with that tail. When that tail gets so happy and it just starts snapping on you. That's
it.
And I think that's a big thing. That it's the little things like that. And I will even say for my professional organization, ICMA, that I'm a part of, every year at their annual conference in the vendor area, or at least since I guess probably Portland, at least that I know of, several years ago. They have it's called this de-stressing station. They bring puppies in, and you just go in and pet the dogs. I love dogs. So to me, that's the happiest thing in the world, is you just get to play with a dog, and because they're always happy, you play with them and they're happy, and it
just
makes
make you
happy.
feel better.
Correct. And I think that's a huge thing. And it's a little thing that you all do for your officers. Kind of shifting gears to some more, some happy stuff ish about the police department. How have you been able to use the advent of technology? How has it made policing better, easier, and improves it for the public, not just for you all, but for the public at large?
That's an easy one for me, because I'm old and I've been around a long time. When I first came on in the late 80s with the GBI and got out of special agent school, they gave me a 4-channel radio with a long, what I call whip antenna on the back of the car, because back then you had to have
the wire that went through the trunk and all that you see in the movies. Okay.
They gave us a 5-shot revolver and a set of handcuffs and said, "Go get them." That was kind of our equipment that we had back then. We did within my first year, we got our first pager, and so. Being part of the GBI, we covered 11 counties, and there was 5 agents, and we had to catch call. And so when we first came out with the pager that only gave you a phone number, this obviously was before cell phones. They gave us whoever was on call had to have the pager for the week, and so we passed it around from one to the other. And when you were on call after hours, if they needed you, they would page you, and they put in a number, and you had to go find a payphone, which some people don't know what is anymore. We had to go find a payphone or get to a phone to try to call to see what they needed us for. So over time, we are now in 2026. Our officers are equipped with just so much technology. And it is we become dependent on it, and it's such a blessing. It can aggravate you when it goes down, but we have vehicles now that have internet connectivity in the vehicle. We have laptop computers so that they can do their reports in their cars. They can also check tags, run people, all right there just at their fingertips in their cars. We have digital ticket writers in the cars that they don't have to handwrite tickets anymore. While they're in the computer running the car tag or the individual, they can just transfer it over to the citation, hit print, and it prints it out in the printer that's in their car. They each have now cell phones, they're not just cell phones anymore. They're basically pocket computers that we all use to Google and search and check and find addresses and find individuals and locate individuals. We now have the cameras in today are just incredible. We've solved so many cases, especially thefts and crimes with the cameras, people have at their homes, that they have in businesses. We now each have body cams. And we've had those since, I guess, 2015. Okay. Every one of our officers wear body cams. Great technology. We've had people that will come in and say, hey, your officer was rude and he said this or did this. And we're able to pull it up and look at the situation, most every situation, and see exactly what was said and how it was said. Now, our officers aren't perfect and we make mistakes. And when we're wrong, we take responsibility, and we work through it and use it as a learning lesson. But so many times when you see what really happened and what really was said, it changes the circumstances.
Absolutely.
But just the technology's out there so much, and the cameras we have flock camera systems that we're able to help when track suspects that will leave scenes at times. So it's just incredible the amount of technology that's out there.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about it a little bit, and I would think it kind of relates to this. There was a case recently that finally finished after a couple decades in Athens, the Tara Baker case.
Oh, yes.
How did technology help that come full circle and, lack of a better term, allow justice to be served even 2 decades after what happened?
Yeah, I didn't even touch into the scientific aspect of technology a while ago, but with the technology, that's advancement through DNA. When I first came on law enforcement, 39 years ago, we were we could get blood type, and that was about it. If we had blood at a scene, they could tell us what type it was, and that was the extent of it. But over the course of time, we were able to be able to get DNA. And then when it first started, you had to have a pretty good sample to get DNA. And then it would take sometimes 2 and 3 months to get the response back. But now in today's technology, even with skin cells, they can get DNA. And so, brings me back to Tara Baker case. I was at the GBI working out of Athens office in 2001, when her murder happened. And so I was familiar with it from the initial part. But over time, the technology was able to grow and change in the DNA field and in the scientific work. And GBI's cold case unit, working with Athens Clarke County, Liz Bigham and Jeremy Howell, who were 2 agents that I worked with in the past, were assigned to the cold case unit and were able to resubmit some old evidence from the Tara Baker case, or some evidence from the Tara Baker case, that new technology was able to extract a DNA sample and help them identify and locate a suspect that was within 500 or 600 feet of a residence. And then they ended up solving the case, and he was convicted in trial.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and that's huge. That's why and I know we joke and say government takes a while, but there are victories like that can be decades in the making, and I'm glad that technology is helping, and I hope that it continues to go. I'm a novice. I don't know what else is out there that technology could solve, but man, I hope it keeps getting better. So now this is a question I ask on every podcast. If anyone has listened to it, if you've listened to them, I always ask, what's your funniest story? What's the thing that back in your career, whether Winder or elsewhere, that just absolutely makes you laugh every time you think about it, and that you can share? I know that, this is a family friendly show, to be able to just makes you laugh, that the public would probably get a good chuckle out of too. Now, we talked about it a little bit before we started recording. You've got a lot to live up to. We've had a crack house that a public works director has gone to, a car driving in a lake at a golf course. That's Miss Clarkson's from the golf course. You got to ask her about that.
I've heard Chief Whiting's
alligator and venomous
and
pit vipers. Yes.
Yeah. So, no, I can't top that.
I don't know who can, to be honest.
No, but in my career, throughout my career, I've had several things that are, after you go back and look at them, they're comical. But one that just stands out to me from my career that I can share. Some I won't list any names, but in the late 1980s, I'd been on with GBI for several years, and we got called down in South Georgia, rural South Georgia, to a I was on call actually working at night. Got a call to a drug overdose. Went down to the hospital, met with this individual, and his friend buddy was there with him, and unfortunately the guy that overdosed from the drugs didn't make it. He was deceased. And so I was talking with his partner that was with him, and they were from another county. And so just in the conversation I said, well, what were you doing over here anyway at 3:00 in the morning? And he said, well, we were over here stealing marijuana. And I said, okay. The guy actually died from a cocaine overdose. And so his partner was telling me, he said, well, we was over here stealing marijuana. I said, where were you stealing it from? He's like, man, there's this huge field. There's marijuana for days. As far as you can see, it's marijuana. I thought he was just, running a scam. And so about daylight the next morning, he said, I'll take y'all to it. So me and the deputy from the county, it was a rural county, said, okay. So we loaded him up in the car, took him out. He drove us out down this dirt road, got out, and I didn't know where we were going. And he started directing us through the woods. And we get to the edge of a field, and down in South Georgia, it's flat and there are huge fields. This was probably a 300 or 400 acre field that you could just see across. And he said, you see that green stuff down? He said, that's all marijuana. And we said, you mean you've lost your mind? It's the middle of the field. There's cows out here. He said, no, that is marijuana. And we thought he was just, again, had too much cocaine. And he said, on the backside over there, there's just marijuana, big tree marijuana. It's everywhere. And so the deputy and I continued to walk on across, and we just started crossing the middle of the field. Again, they had kept this marijuana very healthy. They had fertilized it. They had watered it. And it just had these huge buds on the plants, and it was ready for harvest. And so they had also ran electric fence along each side to keep the cows off of it. And what was unique about it was that didn't make it look like marijuana originally from a distance, was because it was out in the middle of a large field. Back in these days, people would spot marijuana from the air. They had cut it off just above fence height to make it just look like a hedgerow. And so it was not pointed and tall like a lot of the marijuana plants were. It was cut flat, but it was dark green and it was luscious. And so he was telling the truth. And then he took us on over to another corner where there was just this huge area that had these tall, like, marijuana trees. It was just, they knew how to grow marijuana. And so we went back, got in the car. I went back and called my support at the GBI office. They came down and we sat down and started trying to devise a plan, because we wanted it was on somebody's property, but it was just a huge tract of property, and we wanted to be able to try to tie them to the marijuana. And one of our guys who was just intuitive came up with an idea. He said, well, it's about time for it to be harvested. He said, they were down here stealing it. He said, let's go back in and cut a big chunk out and basically steal some of it to make them see it and let them see it so that they'll come in and start harvesting it.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so myself and two other agents went and got our truck. We came in through the back of the field.
Y'all just take machetes with you and just start hacking it up?
And so we pulled right to the middle of, like, the biggest, luscious part. And we got out and we just hacked away and filled the back of the pickup truck with it. We went to went back to the back of the field, and it was, by this time it was starting to get dark. Right at dark, we see headlights coming in. But right before dark, right before dark, they came driving down through the field in a pickup truck, and just to check on their marijuana.
Right.
And they saw what we had done. We had cut a big chunk of their big luscious buds out of it. Came down. We were hiding in the woods, and we watched them. They drove down. They stopped and saw what we had done, and they followed it back to the back entrance. And they were cutting marijuana with flashlights, and so we couldn't see them, but we could see flashlights moving, and we could hear the chopping of the machetes that they were harvesting some marijuana. We gave them about an hour, and they got their vehicle filled. We called our backup, who had come through the main front entrance, and they were waiting so that they could come in with blue lights. The deputy was with us, and this was again a long time ago. He was a seasoned deputy. He'd been around a long time. He had a hearing aid, and I say that because we were trying to whisper and we were trying to tell him what to do, and they weren't very far from us harvesting the marijuana. So he has a shotgun with him. So myself and the other agent said, okay, you're going to stay right here at this opening, and whatever you do, don't let them come through this opening. And he said, okay. And so we left the deputy there. I'll call him John. John stood there at the little opening. Myself and the other agent went back and got in the truck. We could all close in on them together at the same time. So our group, that backup group, had two GBI cars full of agents.
Yeah.
They came down. They had their little blue lights on the dash going. We were coming across the field in our truck with the blue light going. And old John was standing there with his shotgun, and we said, don't let them come through no matter what. Well, he didn't. And what we didn't know was they had a truck with a homemade trailer bed hooked to the back of it, and both parts were full of marijuana.
Oh, gosh.
So they're coming across this cow pasture, and they see the blue lights coming. They're trying to escape. John, the deputy, standing there with the shotgun, and they see him, but they didn't stop. What does John do? He opens up on the side of the truck with a buckshot, 12-gauge buckshot. And when he does, it booms. We take off across the field, and again, this is one of those you may have had to been there. GBI had just bought these new trucks, and we had a new 4-wheel drive truck that my boss absolutely loved. And so myself and the other agent was screaming across the cow pasture, and we hit a fat lighter stump. We hit it right square in the front driver's tire, and the tire sounded like popped. A bomb went off. Yeah, and we got dead stop. We backed it up. And we were convinced we weren't going to stop. So we backed it up, put it in drive, and continued on 3 wheels going across the field, chasing this truck. And the other group was coming in chasing the truck. So they had really nowhere to go, and we kind of came up on them. Well, the other group got to them first. One of the agents got out, had the driver at gunpoint, and we came hobbling up, and he would tell the story that he looked up and saw dust flying, and here comes this truck on 3 wheels bouncing up and down
the flat land.
The flat land. And so we pull up and get out, and the agent that was with me got out, and he said, our headlights shined on the side of the truck, and he said, hey, y'all see the one under the truck? And they're like, no. And so sure enough, one of the ones, when it got stopped, had crawled out of the front seat of the truck and slipped up under the bottom. So they had 2 at gunpoint, and then we pulled up and we dragged the one out that's up under the truck hiding in the dark. And so the dust started settling. One of the guys had glass, was bleeding in his ear and neck, and it was from the glass from the shotgun blast that hit the side of the truck. Starting now, about this time to start get daylight, we started getting ready to process stuff, and one of the agents went over to the bed of the truck, looking down into marijuana, and he sees an arm sticking out underneath all the pile of marijuana that was in there. So he pulls him out. And so then one of the other guys said, we might better check the trailer. Sure enough, went to the trailer, and there was a guy hiding up under the marijuana in the trailer.
And they had been there the whole time.
And he had done bounced across he stayed in the bed of the trailer. I don't know, because he had bounced across that cow pasture.
Was this just like an open trailer that was in the back?
Yeah, it was a homemade open trailer made out of a bed of a pickup truck. And
that sounds about like South Georgia.
So, and we were holding him at gunpoint and getting ready to handcuff him. And the guy started screaming and hollering, and we didn't know what was wrong with him. And when he pulled him out, he threw him down in an ant bed, and the ants were starting to get all over. He was screaming and hollering. So it was a comedy of errors.
It was, but it all worked out in the end. Everybody was safe-ish.
We ended up with 6 people in jail. But by the time we harvested all the marijuana with what we stole what they had harvested, and then we went back after daylight and took plants. We ended up with 2,500 pounds of fresh marijuana bud that was seized.
Wow.
And we piled it all up at the.
I'm sure there's pictures of that somewhere.
There was
I'm
pictures.
Sure there's pictures
we piled
of that
it all
somewhere.
up and burned it. But
that's pretty good. Well, I don't know how to follow up or keep it going from there. But as we kind of wrap up, what's a way that residents can interact with the police department? What's a way that they can help support what you all do?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. We are so blessed with the community here. They support public safety. They support police. We have people that will when things holiday season or things going, people will drop off food, cakes, cookies. We have people that will buy officers lunches. It's just amazing that even in this day and time that we still have the support of the people in the community here in Winder. What I ask people though is just tell them, don't stop by and see us. Don't hesitate to come by. If you got a question or concern, we will come talk to you. We'll come talk to your group. We'll come meet with. I've met with churches. I've met with civic groups. We want them to feel a part and know that we're there to protect and serve them, and we're there to partner with them to try to make Winder a safer and better place for everybody. So we make ourselves available and don't want them to hesitate to contact us.
Well, sounds good. Well, looking ahead, what do you see as the vision for the department? We're in 2026, 2027, 2028, and on. Where do you see the department going?
Yeah, it's we've had a lot of growth in Bear County and Winder the last few years, and still are experiencing some growth now. So there is some of that changing. I look to see us continue to. There's some things that we want to do plan wise, and some of it's technology related. We are wanting to keep up with some of the technology that's out there. Our plans are we have some drones that are available to us. The leadership has supported us, and we have 2 drones. We're trying to get an officer on each shift trained to do the drones. We have 2 drug dogs right now that we're blessed with. We have 4 shifts, and my goal is to get 4 drug dogs, 1 for each shift, so that they're available and they do tracking and they do drug narcotic sniffing for us. Okay. To get those trained. We want to continue to grow and again do our community projects, do our community relationships, continue to do that with the city, as well as grow and develop our officers that we have to be better professional officers.
Well, excellent. Well, Chief, as we wrap up, is there any one nugget or anything that we didn't touch on that you want to make sure the public knows about the department before we sign off for this month?
I can say this because I worked with the GBI for a little over 27 years. I've been in multiple communities. I've been in multiple counties and cities. And I mentioned this to the city council recently, but people that haven't been outside very far from and been around others may not know, but we're very blessed with, first and all, the city that we have, the community that we have. It is a great place to police. Again, the people here are supportive. They want to they support public safety, and they want a community of law and order.
Right.
And then we have great officers. We have some great officers that are growing and learning. We're just blessed with the officers that we have and the department that we have. And then the last part of it that it takes, and it's very important, is we're blessed with the city leadership that we have that supports public safety and supports us and gives us the ability to do our job and give us the ability to grow and train and get better and wants us to be professional. So I've seen a lot of areas that's not always the case. I've seen areas where politics wanted to control what the police did. I've seen areas where that police wanted to do more but didn't have the resources and the funds to be able to do it. I've seen areas where the community and the police were at odds and didn't get along with each other. I've seen areas where the police didn't get along with each other with other police departments. So I can safely say and honestly say that we are blessed with the community and the resources that we have here and with the city leadership, and I look forward to where we're going.
That sounds good. Well, thank you for sharing that. And, at this time, we can go ahead and wrap up. Chief Fullington, I appreciate your time, and I hope that the people that listen to the podcast reach out and come to you all with something good for a change, and just to give you kudos or to pat you on the back, because we know that a lot of times you don't hear from people until something's wrong, and in which case we'll absolutely help them. But I know you all like to hear just, hey, how you doing? How can we help, and ask, how can we help you, as opposed to them, say, hey, we need your help with this. We do.
And we have some people in the community that do that from time to time. Some of it's, just phone calls. Some of it's email. Some of it is something they drop by for the department. So.
All right. Well, we'll go ahead and sign off for the Winder Works podcast. My name is Jonathan Lynn, and I'm the city administrator for Winder, and we will talk to you all next month. Thanks for listening to Winder Works. We hope you enjoyed the show today. Stay informed by following the City of Winder on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And make sure to visit www.cityofwinder.com to learn more about Winder, the City of Opportunity.